All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Imagine stepping into a time machine and traveling back, about 4,500 years, to a massive, bustling kingdom in what is now northern Syria. We're going to explore how the ancient city of Ebla essentially invented the core concepts of modern information storage, archival bureaucracy, and get this, even formalized foreign language education. It's just an absolutely incredible story of innovation that mirrors our modern world in ways you probably wouldn't expect.
Now, there is a fascinating bit of dramatic irony here. To really understand Ebla's brilliant record-keeping, we first have to talk about how it was violently destroyed around 2250 BC, likely by an invading Akkadian army. I know, it sounds like a complete tragedy for history, but as we're about to see, this catastrophic event is the exact reason we actually know so much about them today.
Part 1. The Fire That Saved History. So, back in the 1970s, when Italian archaeologist Paolo Mathiei and his team unearthed the royal palace, they found an absolute miracle. You see, everyday clay tablets used for records were typically just sun-dried, which naturally made them incredibly fragile over thousands of years. But when the wooden shelves of the Ebla Archive burned down during the city's destruction, the intense heat of that blazing palace actually acted like a giant kiln. It perfectly baked these previously unfired clay tablets into completely indestructible ceramics.
It was basically a phoenix from the ashes situation. Because the burning shelves literally pancaked straight down, the tablets stayed perfectly in their original, meticulously organized filing order. Archaeologists didn't just find some random pile of ancient rubble, they found a frozen-in-time snapshot of a working ancient filing system.
Moving right along to Part 2, Ancient Archivists at Work. To manage an empire of this scale, and we're talking about an archive scholars estimate held up to 5,000 tablets, representing nearly 50 years of administration, these scribes developed some incredibly sophisticated chancery documents. We aren't just talking about basic tallies of grain here. These records track the whole shebang: international treaties, daily royal expenditures, military correspondence, and vast trade networks. They even had records showing Ebla produced a variety of local beers, including one named right after the city itself. The level of detail is just staggering.
Okay, I absolutely love this detail. Think about it. If you have thousands of tablets, how do you find the exact one you need? Well, the scribes shelved these tablets vertically, upright, and separated them with little fragments of baked clay, but they leaned them backward at a slight angle so that the incipit, which is the very first words of the text, could be read instantly without actually having to pull the heavy tablet off the shelf.
It's like a direct mirror of how we do things today. The Ebalites used small clay tags on their shelves to reference groups of tablets, functioning exactly like modern metadata tags. And that incipit method, that was basically the invention of the book spine. They totally recognized the need for quick data retrieval, anticipating our modern library and database systems by, over 40 centuries.
And they even organized their physical space using distinct, specialized rooms for different topics, kind of like how we organize digital folders on a computer desktop today. The Great Archive Room housed the main bureaucratic records, while another, larger room held specific ritual and literary texts. They even utilized a smaller vestibule with mud brick benches that acted as a transit area, where tablets were sorted and classified before final filing. It was just a highly managed workflow.
Which brings us to Part 3, the First Language Lab. Because running a massive international trade hub means communicating across borders, this bureaucracy doubled as a major educational center. They literally created the world's first bilingual dictionary. See, Ebla's local language, what we now call Eblite, was a Semitic language. But the cuneiform script they used was actually invented by the Sumerians, whose language was completely unrelated. To bridge that massive gap, Ebla scholars created dictionaries listing words in both languages side by side. It was an incredible linguistic bridge that allowed Eblite students to master foreign communication.
The sheer brilliance here is that the scribes of Ebla didn't just copy the Sumerians, they innovated. By using Sumerian cuneiform signs purely for their phonetic sounds to write their local Eblite language, they made the writing system vastly easier to learn. This was a massive leap toward reader-friendliness in human history, enabling a much wider spread of literacy beyond just the high priests. We're talking merchants, diplomats, and regular palace workers. Ebla essentially functioned as a full-blown modern language lab. The archives didn't just hold official, boring decrees, they contained thousands of student copybooks, practice scratchpads, and lists specifically for learning specialized professional jargon.
They formalized foreign language instruction right there in the palace, using these clay tools to train the next generation of international civil servants.
Let's wrap this all up in part 4, the modern mirror.
When we look at the legacy of these ancient information architects, we clearly see reflections of our own data management. The people running this whole system, the scribe archivists, were highly esteemed. In fact, one of their titles was Dub-Zuzu, which translates roughly to one who knows the tablets. Because they were among the very few literate people holding the keys to international communication, historical records, and the economy, they held immense power. They were essentially the top-tier tech executives and chief data officers of the 3rd millennium BC, directly advising the king and managing the state.
So, to wrap up this explainer, here's a provocative thought to leave you with. Ebla's records survived precisely because they were physical objects accidentally hardened by disaster. Today, we store our entire civilization's history on fragile hard drives and invisible cloud servers that require constant, uninterrupted electricity. Considering the physical permanence of Ebla's accidentally baked clay, is our modern, highly advanced digital knowledge truly as safe from the fires of time? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks so much for exploring the incredible archives of Ebla with me.